This episode features discussion on mental health and suicide, content that may be upsetting or triggering to some. Resources have been posted in the bio, and if you don't feel comfortable listening to these topics, then please skip this episode. Welcome back to the Sick of It podcast. Today we spoke to Suzanne all about bipolar disorder, beauty pageants, and fashion. I hope you enjoy. So how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You look amazing. I'm feeling a little bit underdressed.
Yeah, I'm trying to make as many appearances through these kind of things with the pageant. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can score up to 10 points for our overall score if we go make these appearances and tag them and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So can we start by you just telling us a bit about yourself, what you do, who you are, your health journey?
Yeah, sure. Okay, my name is Suzanne, also known as Susie. I am a peer worker, or it's easier to understand, a support worker in mental health. I have two jobs in mental health. I'm a bit of a workaholic. My full-time job is in Ipswich in Queensland, and I drive 40 minutes each way to work. And I mainly teach art to adults with severe and complex mental health issues like schizophrenia, bipolar, PTSD. Been doing that for over 2 years. This June will be my 3 years with them. And on some weekends, I work also as a support worker, peer support worker, exactly how it's called, with the Queensland government. I also mainly talking to residents, help them with their recovery goals and do some art as well. But it's not main, and I'm in a program for the Ipswich job called LEAP, Live Experience Activities Program. So not only I teach art, but we do online groups such as mindfulness and self-care living skills. The self-care living skills group is really good. We learn we teach our clients how to build emotional resilience, how to set goals, how to set boundaries, kind of thing. It's quite a popular online group. I had it earlier today, and I had a good time there. And I had been diagnosed with bipolar. My journey started when I was, I would say, 14. I attempted suicide, and I almost completed it, if that's the right word to use. And I didn't seek help for 5 years later. I was really good at masking my emotions and feelings. And I told my grandpa at the time, who didn't really understand my mental illnesses. He told me, just be tough, stop crying, just put a mask on it, in which I did. So it took me 5 years to actually go to a GP and tell them that I was depressed. And when I was 19, I found myself in a mental health ward. I was psychotic, I was bizarre, I was having auditory and visual hallucinations. And I found myself in the hospital for the first admission for 3 months. First month I was on suicide watch, and I was followed around by the nurse, wherever I go to eat, go to toilet, shower, a nurse will be there with me. So then I tried many medications in my lifetime as well. I'm currently on clozapine and Abilify injection. It's the perfect combination, the best combination I've had for a long time. And I believe that my bipolar is a chemical imbalance because no one else in my family has bipolar. I have to take medication for the rest of my life because the quality of life I have now is because thanks to medications, not because of anything else. And yeah, so that's a little bit intro about me. Yeah.
And what made you take so long to tell someone about how you were feeling? Was it just because you didn't feel like you could share that?
Yes, kind of feel like I was being a burden to someone else if I shared that I was having those thoughts of suicide or depression. I felt that maybe at the time I had to just hide it and just be stronger, stay positive, smile, kind of thing. And I did feel like I couldn't share it with my family because I'm not sure what you know, but in Asian culture, mental illness is not as accepted like in the Western countries. And yeah, I just felt that I couldn't share, and I was good at masking it, and I felt like I was being, when I talk about emotions and feelings to my grandpa, I feel like I was at the time I was punished for having feelings and emotions, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And what was the process of getting diagnosed with bipolar? Like, how do they diagnose you with it?
So my journey around being diagnosed with bipolar, it started when I was misdiagnosed, I would say, with schizophrenia, inattentive type ADHD, and I tried medications that didn't work. And over the years, as I go in and out of hospital more, They learn to see how I behave like in the community, how I behave in the hospital, and it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Like you learn each year or every time I go to hospital for a mission, it's a piece of puzzle that completes the puzzle later. If that makes sense. And I had to be diagnosed and tried medications that didn't work for me. I've tried lots of medications in the past, so the evaporate, lithium, Seroquel, and so on. But it's not a one easy process because it depends on everyone. Everyone's different.
Yeah, the medication is so hard, right? For, like trying to find the best medication for you. And then I feel like every single medication has some sort of side effect. And then it's like,
Yes,
is it worth dealing with the side effect or dealing with it without the medication? It's such a hard balance.
it is. Yeah, definitely.
And what do you think some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about bipolar are?
One of my pet peeves, like in terms of like misconception of bipolar, I would say, when people use bipolar as a way to like express the weather, like oh, the weather's bipolar today.
Mm,
Bipolar is just ups and downs. You know,
yeah.
it's a mood disorder. It's not ups and downs, happy, sad kind of thing. So that's the main thing I feel that people when I tell them about bipolar, they're like, oh yeah, so you're just up and down. I'm like, no, it's more than that. Yeah. And so there's a fly around me. So yeah, so other things I would say people understand more like the depressive style bipolar, but when it comes to mania, it's hard for I feel personally for hard for me to explain to some people. Because like it's just mania is I don't know how to say this, but like it's harder to explain it than depression. Like and I feel like in like
Mhm.
society like these days more people are speaking about depression and anxiety. It's more like coming out of the shell, the stigma kind of thing. But in terms of like bipolar, it's still I feel it's a long way to go. There's need to be more education and awareness and advocacy works. Like so that's one of the things I do to like help break the stigma around bipolar. And my platform is bipolar awareness, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, we are starting to slowly get more like mental health awareness, but you're right. Like it's really mostly just like depression and anxiety. Like I remember in high school, pretty much the only mental illness they talked about was depression. They never talked about anything else. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even know what anxiety was because they didn't talk about it or like how it worked back then. And
Yeah.
yeah, no one really talks about. Well, what do you think are the main things that you would like people to know about bipolar?
I for my journey, I want to like set an example, you know, that any mental illness you have, like you can use it as a superpower and do good with it. Like I've reached a stage in life where I'm not I do get triggered sometimes, like from work and stuff like that. But in terms of like recovery is very possible. Like, I spent almost 2 years at a mental health rehab called CCU, Community Care Unit. And I thought that like I felt like I was one of those people who had to hit rock bottom before rising, you know? And yeah, just I find that like bipolar is it's hard to have one thing that will help recover, but it's a number of things. Like I've realized that like mental health is more than just the mind. It's about having affordable housing. It's about able to set boundaries with family, friends, relationships, um, able to have a meaningful employment, you know, to give you purpose in life. Yeah, that recovery is possible, definitely possible. So I want to set an example that people even with bipolar can live a fulfilling and quality life, you know, and that they can get support. And I want to continue to break the stigma around mental illnesses and bipolar especially. I think that it's just really it's not easy. It's easy to say than done there. And although I do get a lot of stigma in the family sometimes, my family sees me like some of my cousins sees me really well at the moment. They're like, "Oh, how come you're on medication still? You look really good, and you look think you've recovered." I'm like, "No, I'm here where I am now because thanks to the medications."
And when you are like where you are now and with the medications, what's the difference? Like, how does the medication help?
So my medication helped me with my chemical imbalances. No one in my family has said for like has bipolar, and yeah, it just really helps me. And I see a psychiatrist every 6 months to check out on the medications, like because I need to tweak it a little bit, like may increase it or lower it. And I do have been lowered the medication in the past maybe 2 3 years. So I'm on also Abilify injection. They're lowered by 100 milligrams, which is a really good process. But it's one of those things that you can't just get off cold turkey. You may know, maybe
Yeah.
those, yeah. You can't just you need to like monitor it with a good doctor.
So let's talk about the pageants. What sash are you wearing right now?
I'm a national finalist for the
Mhm.
Miss Galaxy Australia pageant.
Wow.
I'm one of the national finalists, and I'll be competing down in Sydney between May 3rd to May 6th. The crowning gala is on Friday or Saturday. I mean Saturday on 6th of May, and it's my fourth time to compete in a pageant. Yeah, so I competed in Miss Vid 4, like Vietnamese 4, back in, oh wow, I can't remember, a long time ago. Yeah, and I also entered the Miss Vietnam World Australia in Sydney too. And then the one that I did last year was Miss Royalty International Australia. And like if I was going to share like how different each pageant is, I would say that the first two pageants, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just tried to like wing it, which is not good in a way, like for pageantry, because you have to be really organized and plan things out, like your outfits and what you're gonna wear, how you're gonna get to your interview kind of thing. So I entered one when I entered Miss Vietnam World Australia. I didn't place, and I got some photos of me in bikini and swimwear, and it was posted online like shortly after. I received some trolls. One guy saying sumo, and another guy saying, "Why did she end the pageant? She's too fat." And I remember at the
Mm.
time I was like, I felt like a piece of shit, and
Yeah.
I was like, "This is so nice." So I responded to comment like, "If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it all." And I remember like when the pageant next year after it finished, I asked if we can rejoin, and the director said that I was too big.
Really?
I was like, wow, that made me angry actually, and
Yeah.
that made me realize that hey, if I enter pageants and if I show that any my type of body, I'm size 14. Anyone who wants to enter pageants and modeling, because I've been modeling for since 2013, 10 years now, and it was like a turning point for me, Raimy, that like if I want to model, I want to set an example that anyone who can have any size or race or that any diversity they are, they can enter pageants and or do modeling,
Yeah.
And like I want to set an example that you can always do all these things, no matter how big or small you are, what body shape you are. Yeah. So my turning point in pageantry also was last year. Miss World International, very organized, very accepting of all body types. There were body types. There was women of color. There was me, kind of thing, And I came in. I came first runner up in Miss Photogenic. I won Miss Congeniality. It was voted by my Sash sisters, but whatever they call them, sisters, Sash sisters, and um, and I also won second runner up in my division. So I'm Miss MS division, and I'm also for national finals for this pageant coming up this year. In the Miss division too, and my mum and my best friend are both in it too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
And so is that what kind of made you want to do beauty pageants in the first place? To like kind of raise that awareness and show some diversity?
Some diversity and people more Asian culture can actually join kind of thing, and definitely like to also build confidence and also able to use my platform Bipolar to raise more awareness and then share my story with people that I've never met before. And I do think I'm a really confident person, but I think there's always room for improvement, right?
Yeah.
Like in speaking, I need to slow down sometimes. It might seem that I'm anxious, but I naturally talk quite fast. Who knows yet? Yeah, and yeah, so just building awareness, and I'm hoping to if I win, I win. If I don't win anything, I'll tell myself that I'll learn to fail gracefully,
Mhm.
gracefully, and just do my best and enjoy and have fun. Yeah.
And what kind of is the process of doing a pageant? Like, what are all the things you need to prepare and do?
Oh wow. Yeah. So my first question, I was not prepared at all. I've learned that you need to prepare how you're gonna smile, how you're gonna walk. You can prepare for your outfits. So in the Galaxy this year, there's evening gown, there's eco fashion wear, fun fashion, interview, and swimwear as well. Yeah. So there's some examples, and it's like you have to like learn how to like wear the clothes, and don't let the clothes control you. If that makes
Yeah.
sense, but you have to control the dress. So like some dresses are really difficult to like wear and pose. So the dress that I wore last year for Miss World International in my evening gown right round, I had a long train on the side, and I I found it really tricky to like model with it. But I had a friend who also won a pageant in Vietnam like years ago, and she told me about how to like she taught me how to wear the dress and how to like hold it, how long, etc. kind of thing. And she also helped me wear show me how to wear the ao dai, which is the Vietnamese traditional dress, the national costume last year. And it was a very long train. It was like 2 meters
Oh,
train,
wow.
and I tried to turn it while turn around and during the walk and try to make it look as graceful as possible. That took me a long time to like to get control of, like how to like wear it with like confidence and then let the dress control you, but you control the dress. Yeah.
And if someone wants to enter a beauty pageant, like what do they do? Where do they go? Where do you even find them?
So Miss Galaxy pageant was introduced me by the third pageant that I entered, Miss World International director. He's told me that if I join Galaxy, he thinks that I would really enjoy it because the platform is very similar to Miss World International, but I do find it's a bit bigger in terms of like how like international the brand is. Yeah. And I found out about pageants just through like social media, friends that sharing with me. Yeah, I'm also in the fashion industry, so I get invited to a lot of fashion events, and like I know a lot of fashion people who try to organize and coordinate pageants. So I think it's mainly through word of mouth, but yeah, there's a lot of pageants in Australia. Just depending which one you think we would like, would we want to choose, like which platform you want to choose to help you build a confidence or networking kind of thing. Yeah.
And what are your biggest tips for someone who is going to do a pageant, maybe for the first time?
For the first time, I would say it's almost a quote: if you fail to plan, you plan to fail kind of thing. Yeah. So, but in saying that, one of my Sasha's last year, she won.
Yeah.
She didn't try her dress until 2 days before the pageant, and she won the title, and she's going international now.
Wow.
Yeah. And long story short, her grandma passed away 2 days before the conference, before the pageant too, and I can't believe she winged it and she won.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyone who my tips or advice for those um who wants to do pageants for the first time, I would say have fun, enjoy it, and don't expect you don't have high expectations on yourself, because the more high expectations you have, possibly the more you will fall and be hurt by it. Yeah. Yeah, and just enjoy and make friends. Yeah.
And I did want to talk about your fashion as well, because if anyone doesn't follow you on Instagram and they haven't seen you yet, you're always dressed amazingly in like the most crazy out there bright colors.
Yeah, thank
When did
you.
when did you get into fashion?
I remember my first so I've been fashion blogging for a while, since
Oh
2013,
wow.
so 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. So when I was 22, I guess, I'm 32 now. And yeah, I just love going to fashion events, and I haven't been sick of it yet, which is good. And I do look back at my style over the years. It has changed a lot for the better, I would say. And I remember going to like, when I go to fashion events, I introduce myself as a mental health and fashion blogger. And they're like, oh, mental health. I'm like, yeah, then I use my elevator pitch. I was like, oh yeah, I'm a blogger, mental health fashion blogger. I have bipolar disorder, and I go to these events to help raise stigma and raise awareness and break the stigma around mental illnesses. Yeah, and then it just creates a conversation,
Mhm.
because I think like in fashion, there's also not there's a lot of people in fashion I feel I met as well along the way too, who has mental illnesses, but they feel they can't speak up about it.
Yeah.
And so I'll also like to add that like I know a lady, her name's Jude, and she's a fan of Mind Your Fashion.
Mhm.
That she try to build awareness around people who in the fashion industry who has mental illnesses, and that they can speak up and get the support that they need. And I find that really like I felt really touched up by her goal in that business. Yeah. And she not just a business she's very passionate about as well. And I think fashion is like just really it's more than just clothes. Hey,
Yeah.
it's about the connections, networking, and yeah. And I couldn't see myself organizing a fashion event because I've seen it from the inside out. It's very stressful.
And your outfits really are so spectacular and bold. Do you ever feel a little bit anxious like wearing them, or you just don't care what anyone thinks?
I don't care anymore. But before I did, I was like, Mom's like, can you try to like tone it down sometimes? She tells me. I'm like, Mom, I'm just my style like that. I like to be bold and creative with my layering and everything like that too. Yeah.
And do you take inspiration from anything or anyone when it comes to your fashion?
I think I'm really good with color. Like I can like really get inspired by like colors and like nature, fashion, and like music as well. It can help me create my outfit. Um, yeah, just and I'm also an artist. So I know, and I'm a visual artist. So I know how to put colors together in a way. If that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And quickly going back to the bipolar, if someone does think that they potentially might have bipolar, what should they do? Like, where should they begin?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good question. I would go to the GP first and get a mental health care plan. Yeah, and then like and find some psychologists do the mental health care plan that you trust, and they might even help you find a psychiatrist like to talk about maybe symptoms and signs that you might have bipolar. My experience is that I had a long history in hospital with the PA hospital in Brisbane, so I have a history of like of being misdiagnosed schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, ADHD, and like the more hospitalizations I went to, the more it became clear for me that I had bipolar. So I don't know. I'm not saying you should go to hospital and become unwell and like and get the bipolar diagnosis. But I think it's the way to start is maybe doing some research as well, like around like websites that are legitimate. Um, maybe like Lifeline or Black Dog Institute, really like about the kind of thing. I wouldn't suggest like self-diagnosing yourself through Google. That's a bit tricky and not always reliable, right? Yeah. But yeah, just when talking to someone like you trust, like a doctor or yeah, first like a GP person, I would say. Yeah.
And what are like the main symptoms that you should be looking out for?
So I have bipolar type 1. Sometimes I go through hypomania. So I have like grandiose ideas about life. Sometimes I'm hypersexual, like I get myself in like vulnerable situations like sexual like experiences. And sometimes I hear voices too. And yeah, bipolar looks different for everyone. I know some people who's not creative in arts, but they're very creative in music. And
Hmm.
yeah, I'm very creative in the arts and dressing myself like fashion and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, also like if more than 2 weeks I feel depressed, I can't get out of bed. I know something is needs to be changed in me, like not fixed, but something I need to go seek help. Yeah, anything long lasting 2 weeks, it's a sign for me to go seek professional help. My mood disorder. So if I feel depressed, really like depressed, um or if I can't like if I'm panic attack, I have to use some like medications to help it, like Valium to help PIN medication to help calm as well. But I haven't been manic for a long time. But the other week I was quite depressed. I had to celebrate my birthday and that's it. It was my first time with my grandpa. So I was very emotional and I was trying to like use a wise mind, everything like that too.
And how are you so open about your mental health? Is that just come through time and practice?
Yes, a little bit time and practice. So I'm putting on mental health. Long story short, I have a mental health YouTube channel, right? And I had a few more trolls who told me on they posted two different comments. One comment was, "You're the ugliest sack of shit I ever seen," and then another comment saying, "I hope you die of depression." But my journey changed, and until I had a turning point, I had one person comment on my video saying, "I was going to end my life today, but I saw your video and I didn't." So that was a turning point of me, and it doesn't want me sharing on mental health. Like, if my story can help and inspire others or save a life, why not? Like, it's just I feel I found my purpose in life. Like, just do my sharing the story. I do overshare, and I think in a good way, but
Hmm.
I feel that like my story is very powerful. It's unique, and everyone has a story to share too, but not everyone has the voice. And so that was a really a epiphany for me. Like I really had a moment, and I was like, wow, if it can, no matter how many trolls I get, kind of thing, I just use those troll comments as a ladder to help reach my goals in life, which is to break stigma around bipolar awareness, bipolar specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Mm.
Thank you so much for coming on.
That's okay.
Where can we find you?
I have a website, Suzanne, SUZANE -dang.com. And from that website, there's like links to my Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channel as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Raimy, Rose.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to get our episodes each week and leave a review if you're enjoying the podcast. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at Sick of It Podcast and Instagram at sickofit_podcast. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.